Welcome back, Ramble fans. Yes, I'm back and doing my usual tangent-filled ramblings. It's been a while, I do know that. I've been having a bad week and a bit. Lost all faith in anything ever getting done, or me actually achieving anything. So I took a step back, spent nearly a week in just a total miasma of what's the point. Got out of it. How did I do that? I read. I gamed. I thought. I observed. But other than Friday, we'll talk about that in a minute. Other than Friday, I fulfilled my volunteer commitments at both Ipswich Community Hub and MS. Indeed, I've been helping one of the directors at CHIP form some form of handbook for volunteers as to what their duties are. And I feel good being involved. It was the start of my comeback from the miasma I'd been in. Saturday, I managed to will myself to go in for my volunteer shift. I got there for 20 past 10 when I don't really start till 11, and it's a good job I did, because the manager was on her own. One member of staff had called in sick, and there was just me and her. A few members of staff came in briefly from other branches or came in just to see what was up. And Jill, the manager, had been on a week off. And had come back to a pile of emails for herself to sort out. And then an hour after I kind of start, basically someone had noted that the Hoover's bust. Okay, you don't have to be a technician. As it turned out, you didn't need a technician to sort that out. Poor Henry the Hoover just had a major blockage. So I basically unravelled one of the coat hangers, because we sell a lot of clothes. There's a lot of coat hangers. And cleared the blockage. And emptied the bag. That's an important thing as well when it comes to a Hoover. It's amazing how many people don't get the technical details of that. Found someone who we'd caught on CCTV taking the price tag off a painting and allegedly paying about £3 less for it in a charity shop. Yeah. And after a week or so of wondering why I'm doing it, I've been getting actively involved in projects. I may even hopefully be involved in a collaboration project between the two places where I work. Oh, hang on. This will clear me. Tiger Balm. I am not being sponsored by Tiger Balm, but I wish I was. Beautiful stuff. I swear by it. And I'm beginning to swear by this book. It will probably come up in Mirror. Yes, it will. But it's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. It's a million copy bestseller, but it's a very good book. Fire gave us power, farming made us hungry for more, money gave us purpose, science made us deadly. Yep. And the beginning of settled agricultural farming, in my opinion, was the worst thing that ever happened to humanity. Did you know the average hunter-gatherer, not in the marginalised hunter-gatherer societies we've seen that have been documented, but in prehistory, they estimate that they probably had a far better diet. Their children were better looked after because they didn't feel the urge to pop them out once a year to add to the potential farmhands. And especially in more fertile areas where it comes to game, wild fruits, wild grains, etc. It probably had a lot more leisure time. Did you know that Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is the earliest known and proven construction, note, I believe there is a wall in New Zealand which most people dismiss as being just naturally eroded to look like a wall. I believe there is also an underground series of rock formations off the coast of Japan that people claim is not natural. But most people believe it actually is. It's just a coincidence. Now, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. I think it's about 8,000 years old. It was a ceremonial site, but it was never meant for permanent habitation. But in order to build it, they had to domesticate certain varieties of wheat that are found nearby to provide the food for the workforce. Perhaps it was one of the first times that the domestication of wheat was thought about, and it was for ceremonial purposes. First writing, that would be tax records kept in the Sumerian Empire. Not poetry, not mythology, not religion, tax records. That tells you something, I think. And Professor Harari's idea that it is different societies, religions, and mythologies, including the mythology that the United States exists, the mythology that, say, he uses the example of the company Peugeot exists as a real entity. It doesn't. It's an idea. The car manufacturer Peugeot is an idea. It's a powerful idea, as is democracy, as is Christianity, as is Islam, as are all these, as is democracy, communism. These are all powerful ideas that shape human behaviour. Genetically, we haven't changed that much in 10,000 years. Maybe we're a bit less hairy. Maybe for a lot of people, their natural senses are duller. But yes, it's a very interesting and thought-provoking read. That's Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. I understand being, an Israeli, his writing might be a little bit unpopular at the moment on the world stage, but that's neither here nor there. He's just very intelligent and he puts his point across well. So I do not care. And he definitely hasn't been blatant about the politics he follows. He's just talking about observations on the nature of humanity, how we got where we are. He even, he includes Judaism in his whole mythology thing. It is simply a method of making humans behave in a certain way, but they all have their contradictions. The Christian soldier in World War II, for example, is told by the Ten Commandments that killing is wrong, basically. But if it's sanctioned by his government, it's a noble and honourable thing to do. The paradoxes of all these ideas of civilization. Like I said, I've come to the standpoint whereas we're much better off as hunter-gatherers, and I'd love to go back to that. It's not going to happen. We've been too long in civilization. Now, where was I going to go? Ah, yes, this. It's a very divisive symbol in modern politics, and it shouldn't ever have become that. To me, the poppy is a symbol of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, when World War I finished. It is a symbol of men of the United Kingdom who continue to put their lives on the line, hopefully for the good of this country rather than for whatever government's political agenda. But sometimes that happens, I accept that, but still. Men and women in this country who sign up for the armed forces, they are not well looked after by our government. I believe you have the same in the US. And they should be. They were willing to risk life and limb, and probably in the majority of cases, extreme psychological harm, in order to not necessarily defend their country, but to exercise their country's beliefs. And in some cases, maybe to stop other people from beating the shit out of each other. Certainly various countries haven't been succeeding in this one lately. My grandfather and 2 great-grandfathers and 3 great-uncles all served, that I know of. Possibly a lot more did as well. Three of my grandmother's uncles were killed in 1915, possibly on the Somme, we're not sure. 3 out of 4 of them. My great-grandfather was an army colonel. He fought in World War I and was evacuated from Dunkirk in World War II. So obviously he was a lieutenant probably in World War I. and survived that. And he also survived World War II as well. My great-grandfather on the other side was an interwar Gurkha captain. And my grandfather was RAF for life. He joined in 1934. Went right through World War II as a ground engineer. He kept the boys flying. And by all accounts, he was a very good one. He won the British Empire Medal for meritorious conduct. This is, I found out, quite a high award. It wasn't for bravery, it was simply because he was an innovator and a very, very good engineer. Back in those days, most RAF ground crew engineers specialised in either airframe or electronics. He could do both. Apparently he spent the last year of World War II over in Canada teaching the Canadians how to maintain their aircraft. There is a photograph album that I would like to get hold of if I can ever repair the relationship with my mother. Which is basically, in that year he spent in Canada, he toured the northern United States and Canada. And there are photographs of him in New York City in 1944, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec. So to me, this means something. It's recognition of men from the United Kingdom who have, especially in World War II, fought to defend this country. I think since World War II, the United Kingdom has only been involved in one war that was, to my mind, justifiable, and that would be the Falklands. Only because the people of the Falklands had British citizenship and were not willing to be Argentine. That is the only reason. The political controversies about who owned it, when and where, yes, you could argue them. But at the end of the day, the Argentinians invaded what was sovereign British territory, and most of those people, every time they'd put it to a referendum, they were always like, no, we want to remain British. So these were British citizens, regardless of the history and politics. They were British, and they wanted to remain so. It's one of the few things I believe that Margaret Thatcher did that was actually good. I mean, yeah, the only reason my parents were able to buy their house was because of her whole let people buy their council houses. Problem with that was they didn't replace the stock. So now we have a shortage of affordable rented housing in the UK. Well, it's been a while since I've done one of these, so I've probably rambled on far too much. It ain't easy for me to get back into something after I had a long time off. But anyways, dipping my toe back in, because I know these videos get a lot more likes than my gaming videos, and people watch them more to see what rubbish I'm going to spout next. Oh, Mr. Spitfire's in the frame. I do love the Supermarine Spitfire. What an aircraft. Anyways, I will think of another topic before long and get back into doing these fairly regularly, I would like to think. I'm getting back. I've had a week and a half of despondency, but I'll get back to being me again, hopefully. Well, nice to see you all again. I hope you appreciate it. Blah, blah, blah.